Thank you very much, Pak Andi, for the introduction. To start with, it's always confusing when I myself talk about my schedule. It's very hectic and it's always changing it's not from time to time, but even from minute to minute. Pak Andi mentioned that I wrote in the newspaper, but in fact I'm only an amateur writer. Pak Andi mentioned that you had lunch already. I had a half piece of fried banana in my car on the way to this meeting. And also when I was in my car to prepare also part of my short remarks today, and this is the way I prepared the remarks. You know, it's very poor. it's not sophisticated using the gadget, but I wrote the draft, because by writing by myself, then I understand what I would like to convey. But first of all, let me start by thank you very much for inviting me to this very important gathering, very important meeting. And once again, my apology for the time adjustment, because I have to present the statement of the government on behalf of the President of the Republic of Indonesia on the ratification of the convention, the ASEAN Convention on trafficking in person, especially women and children, because this is a very important ratification, very important convention for Indonesia. We already be party for the UN transnational organized crime. We had national legislation on that issue, and we would like to extend our cooperation with the neighboring country, with ASEAN, by ratifying the ASEAN Convention against trafficking in person, especially women and children. Ladies and gentlemen, Ibu dan Bapak yang saya hormati, Pak Andi mentioned when I met Pak Andi at my office, Pak Andi submitted the invitation. I immediately showed my great interest to attend this meeting, and at that time on my schedule I must be in South Africa to hand over the chairmanship of Indonesia for IORA, but I tried to switch it with my vice minister. So in fact that my vice minister is now in South Africa and Durban, and tomorrow I must fly to Istanbul to attend the foreign ministers meeting for D8 and to accompany the vice president to attend the summit for D8. I would like to, because I received the information about this forum, this discussion or this conference, I would like to quote some information, and I think this information is very important, the information that you have disseminated to all participants. There are three quotations that I took from your information. First, quote, poor reporting of religion and of the religious communities, mostly out of ignorance, but sometimes as a matter of editorial policy, continue to the rising of tension or fanning of the conflict and in many parts in Asia. Second quotation, the media, they represent need to take religion journalism seriously. And third quotation, the media should be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So I think this information and this quotation are very important and giving or framing for the conference today. As part of us, as part of me and my ministry, the issue of pursuing the cooperation on interfaith dialogue becomes part of the DNA of Indonesian diplomacy. And with my background as a career diplomat, I witnessed closely how the foreign policy of Indonesia is trying to mainstream the cooperation on interfaith dialogue. We have the interfaith and intercultural dialogue with 28 countries bilaterally. In 2017 alone, we hosted for the first time the Indonesia-Myanmar Interfaith Dialogue in May 2017. This is the first time we have the interfaith dialogue in Myanmar. Why? We propose to have that because we understand that here and there at the communal level and the community level, the tension remains, including those in Rakhine State. So that's why we propose to have the interfaith dialogue in Myanmar. In 2017, we also did for the first time, the interfaith dialogue with Singapore. Can you imagine? We are a close neighbor with Singapore, and only in July 2017, when we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the relation, our diplomatic relation with Singapore, then we think that having the interfaith dialogue with Singapore is also very important. October, so this month, we will have another interfaith dialogue with Austria. And in addition to the 28 bilateral dialogue that we have, we are very active also in various activities of interfaith, communities dialogue, such as in APEC, in ASEAN, in MICTA. MICTA is Mexico, Indonesia, Korea, Turkey, Australia. So we introduce also the interfaith dialogue, the interfaith cooperation in the context of MICTA. MICTA is relatively a new forum, the informal forum, again, with a membership of Mexico, Indonesia, Korea, Turkey, and Australia. And also we are very active in UNAOC. Last year, when we hosted the Bali Democracy Forum for the 9th year, we also mainstreaming the issue of pluralism and tolerance. In February 2016, Indonesia has launched a new initiative on empowering leaders of peace through digital platform. It is a global integrated counter-narrative campaign against the spread of extremist ideology. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Pak Hendy mentioned also about the schedule, so I would like to share with you a little bit what I did in the past 5 weeks. Many things was happening in the Indonesian diplomacy in the last 5 weeks, among others related to the humanitarian diplomacy and also about interfaith. 5 weeks ago, I did what I call the marathon diplomacy. Marathon diplomacy for humanity, to be more exact, to Myanmar and Bangladesh to discuss the issue of the development in Rakhine State. So during my meeting with the Myanmar authorities, Indonesia proposed what I call the Formula 4+1. The Formula 4+1 is first, peace and stability in Rakhine State. Second is protection for all, regardless background of the ethnicity and religious. Third one is maximum restraint and no use of force. The fourth one is the access for humanitarian assistance. And the +1 is the implementation of Kofi Annan recommendation. So I proposed the formula to Myanmar authorities, again with a good intention, to assist Myanmar to address the issue in Rakhine State, because the situation in Rakhine State is really worrying. Then I went to New York to attend the UN General Assembly. I was there for 10 days and I had 115 meetings. So can you imagine, in 10 days, 115 meetings that I attended in New York. And again, some of my meetings was also talking about interfaith dialogue, and of course, again, the issue or the development in Rakhine State was among those discussed during the meetings in New York. Then from New York, I went to Tunis to launch the Bali Democracy Forum chapter Tunis. Why Tunis? Because remember that the Arab Spring started from Tunis. So we share with our colleagues, with my colleagues in the northern part of Africa, exchange of experience about democracy. In particular, how democracy works in the Muslim majority country like Indonesia, Tunisia, and others. With one message, of course, that democracy and Islam is compatible. It works. It can work. Then I flew to Jordan. To Jordan, we discussed again about Islam as rahmatan lil alamin, and how we, countries, states, nation, can help the struggle or help the Palestinian people. So I changed the issue into the Palestinian issues. Then I flew to Rome. In Rome, I met with community, San Egidio community, because we have the cooperation with San Egidio community for years. That is about the interfaith dialogue and how to link between the interfaith dialogue with the concrete deliverables, with peace and others. So this very, very interesting discussion. And my last leg was in Brussels to attend the Eurovalia. So it is not a coincidence that the interfaith dialogue and religious freedom were very much a focus lately in my trips, and it was there in the foreign policy of Indonesia. I mentioned to you that during my GA meetings, for example, at the Trikveli seminar, we discussed, and Indonesia, I myself was one of the panelists on the discussion on the fundamental freedom, focusing on the freedom of religions. And during that meeting, I urged for the strengthening of cooperation in interfaith. And at the UN Alliance of Civilization, we focus on youth, including the context, again, under the context of interfaith. So my trips clearly reflected that interfaith is very much the signature and the vein of Indonesia diplomacy, especially since Reformasi. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, for a diverse country like Indonesia, with 300 ethnics and 700 spoken languages, embracing all 6 major religions, harmony is a must. I would like to repeat that. Harmony is a must. There is no alternative. Otherwise, Indonesia cannot survive. Our founding fathers, Indonesian founding fathers, formulated the constitutional foundation for the respect and protection of traditions, cultures, and religions, even 3 years before the Universal Declaration on Human Rights was adopted. While harmony is a must, we have also to remember that harmony is not given. It must be nurtured by both the government as well as by the society, by religious and society leaders, and also by media and journalists such as yourself, especially in the era of instant news and digital. Diplomacy is, of course, a reflection and projection of domestic affairs. After Reformasi, we have vibrant and dynamic society, and democracy paved ways for freedom, including the freedom of religion and freedom of expression, which, without clear rules and regulation, these two freedoms might collide with one another. Hence, religious harmony is not only about law, it is about attitude and mindset. This is why Pancasila for us is very important as a platform for common mindset. And media has a strong influence in forming mindset of the society, including the peaceful mindset of the society. At the global level, we are gravely concerned by three real phenomena. One is the rise of religious intolerance, especially the mistaken association of Islam and violent extremism, even terrorism. I underline here especially the mistaken association of Islam and violent extremism and terrorism, because all religions teach harmony, tolerance, and peace. Second phenomenon is the abuse of religious teaching for inhuman causes and purposes. And the third is the widespread misuse of media, including the social media, to spread hoax, fabricated news, and hate speech, especially or including actually among the youth. Therefore, interfaith dialogue is the probable way to anticipate the worsening situation and to enhance mutual understanding. It is for this reason that Indonesia has been taking leading initiative in promoting interfaith dialogue in its diplomacy. On our part, I already mentioned so many activities that Indonesia had taken in the past for the interfaith dialogue. In February 2000, just to add what I had mentioned, in February 2016, again, I mentioned Indonesia launched a new initiative known as Empowering Leaders of Peace through Digital Platform. I already mentioned previously. So colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the key challenges facing interfaith are twofold. First, sending the message across. Interfaith should go beyond the converts, but to those with exclusive and extreme mindset. Second, making interfaith relevant and effective in addressing people's daily problems, such as economic life, peace building, environment, and others. In short, interfaith dialogue must deliver also concrete result. The media plays very strategic role in conveying the message. Again, the media plays very strategic role in conveying the message and shaping new direction for interfaith that yield deliverables. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, after all of us want to see a world that peace and prosper for all. We share the responsibility to attain it, and we have to contribute something to attain or to create or to maintain the world that is full of peace and prosperity. So I want to end, and I wish you all a fruitful and constructive dialogue, and my apology that I have to rush back to Jakarta. 2 meetings, one is with the Minister of Trade, because we are negotiating so many agreements on the preferential trade agreement, the free trade agreement, and also the comprehensive economic partnership agreement with others. And then after that, at 5 o'clock, I have to rush back to the Parliament again for the second time today. So once again, I feel so honored to be able to be with you here this afternoon. And again, my apology for being very late, not only late, but very late. And I do hope that you have a very fruitful discussion. Is it today and tomorrow, right? Yes. Today and tomorrow. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam, Your Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Retno Marsudi.